Good morning. I am presenting on behalf of the Lambda Beta chapter of Beta Alpha Psi from the University of Tampa on our project to cultivate inclusive leaders within our chapter. My name is Hannah Lamon, and I'm the president for our 2021 to 2022 school year, and it is a pleasure to be able to present our work to you all today. Firstly, we would like to start with the foundation of diversity, equity, and inclusion work that is being done at our university, the importance that DEI has for our chapter. We'll talk about our project proposal and the accomplishments, the University of Tampa's Spartan Ready initiative and its integration into our chapter, our action plan laid out in our abstract, and lastly, we would like to focus on the outcomes and how we plan to make our project sustainable for our chapter looking into the future. The Board of Trustees and upper administration requested an overhaul of diversity, equity, and inclusion practices in all areas of our university, including curricular, extracurricular, recruitment, hiring practices, and other areas. I served on the task force, and we met for 3 hours every Friday of the 2020 to 2021 academic year to discuss these topics, gather data, develop recommendations, and communicate with other students, faculty, and staff on their personal experience while being at our university. We found that our university was not adequately supporting our community members, and we worked on recommendations that may mitigate these threats in cultivating an inclusive environment. Our final report is published on the University of Tampa's website for your review, and we ultimately decided on some actionable recommendations that we have implemented starting throughout this current academic year as a university. Firstly, we hired a chief diversity officer, created a university diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, created a vendor tracking process, and have undergone a review of recruitment practices and how we can bring students to UT with diverse backgrounds. And because of my work with the task force, the Dean of Students Diversity Advisory Group, and my work on our Beta Alpha Psi project, I was awarded the Agent of Change Award from our university's administration, and it has been an honor to complete this challenging yet meaningful work. When reflecting on the university's DEI initiatives, along with discussing what our chapter could do to positively promote inclusive leadership as a part of EY's sponsored project in this space, we realized that we were not doing as much as we could to help our members think, learn, and act inclusively. The biggest problem that we identified for our chapter is the lack of DEI learning opportunities for BAP members, and what we wanted to do was to provide DEI educational opportunities and involvement resources for our members. Firstly, to follow through on our proposals in the initial abstract, we integrated the inclusive leadership role with the president's responsibilities because we realized that the tone and commitment towards DEI would have to come from the top in order to be successful leadership, in order to have successful leadership in the DEI space. Secondly, our chapter partnered with campus community members to sponsor DEI-focused skills workshops and skill shops, such as sustained dialogue, biweekly diversity and inclusion meetings with our new chief diversity officer, as well as the Spartan Ready skill shops. Lastly, we had hoped to partner with the College of Business at UT to have a speaker within the leadership speaker series that focused on DEI. Although we weren't able to fulfill this objective on a short timeline based on the significant planning and preparation that goes into these events, we were able to invite firms to our chapter meetings to speak about DEI practices in the workplace. We used a chapter meeting to discuss the DEI Values to Action Task Force, and we provided our members with information on DEI resources for students at UT. Partnering with our College of Business to hold a DEI-focused leadership series will remain a future goal of our chapter. This year, we have decided to heavily integrate the Spartan Ready competencies into our chapter. These competencies are key skills that students should be fluent in for success in life after college. Specifically looking at the equity and inclusion competency, it aims to educate students on how to understand, appreciate, and disagree with civility. Our world should be representative of every perspective, and the ability to understand people's perspectives, address our own implicit bias, while also being able to respectfully practice interpersonal abilities is very challenging for students, as it requires both self-awareness and vulnerability. These were just some of the skill shops that our BAP chapter partnered with our campus Spartan Ready team on to provide knowledge on inclusive leadership, self-awareness, and equity and inclusion. All skill shops are facilitated by students, faculty, staff, or upper administration at UT. We plan on continuing this partnership and hope that more of our members take advantage of these skill shops in the future. The primary objectives of our chapter for DEI initiatives are the following. So firstly, to facilitate discussions on DEI within the workplace and what that means to be an inclusive leader, to encourage individual growth among interpersonal communication and leadership competencies needed for success in education and professional settings, to expand the understanding of what being an inclusive leader looks like in our community and how we as Beta Alpha Psi members can positively contribute to our society today. And lastly, to network with inclusive leaders among our university leadership and professional community. And then the desired outcomes are to illustrate to our campus and community partners the importance and value of being knowledgeable on topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how training and education on those topics aids to the development of becoming an inclusive leader. To promote the campus-wide discussions on how we can individually grow to become more involved members of our society by contributing to positive social change. Self-growth and a commitment to taking a journey to better understand these difficult topics is vital to creating change on our campus. Third, to challenge students to take actionable steps in their own college experience that will aid them in becoming an inclusive leader and to be intentional in taking part of DE&I efforts on our campus. And finally, to network with campus partners and inclusive leaders within our community to facilitate the growth of our own chapter's network. We hope that these valuable connections can be used as resources and role models for our own members to create sustainable connections between our chapter and larger community. We've had great success this year in implementing our plan and are pleased to report that we believe that all of our primary objectives and outcomes have been met. The journey for cultivating inclusive leadership does not have a timeline. So our chapter plans to ensure the preservation of positive changes that we've made in order to better position our members to be inclusive leaders who drive change. In the future, we would like to continue our partnership with Spartan Ready, begin planning the Partnered Skill Leadership Speaker Series through the UT's College of Business for the spring of 2023. And lastly, we would like to formulate our own plan for inclusive leadership training for our members to accomplish while they are a part of our chapter and to prepare them for graduating from the University of Tampa. This would include sustained dialogue trainings, bias education resources, public speaking workshops, and self-awareness related activities. Thank you all for listening today. Please reach out to me if you have any questions and use the link to read the University of Tampa's Values to Action report. And a special thanks to EY for the initial funds and helping us implement our ideas for empowering inclusive leaders in our chapter and reminding us to be intentional with the events that we support and plan. Thank you.